What is going on, guys? Thanks for tuning in to another episode of the Red and Gold Standard Podcast. My name is Zach Hernandez, and as always, I am joined by my co-host, Matt Llewellyn, and our guy, Mike Andrews of Nothing But Niners. We got a great show for you guys this evening. We'll be breaking down the 49ers butt-whooping of the Jacksonville Jaguars, 34-3. Before I toss it over to my fellow hosts, if you guys are tuning in on Twitter, head over to youtube.com/49ersHive and join from there. You can also join from youtube.com/NothingButNiners. We got a great show planned for you. Like I said, you're not going to want to miss it. While you're at YouTube, hit like, hit subscribe. It helps more than you think. We really want to hear your guys' thoughts. This is the first 49ers win in what seems like a month. I think a little over a month. So come join. Come share your thoughts. We want to hear it. Now that I got that all the way, Matt, how you doing this evening?
Hey, man, it's nice to get back in the win column. It's nice to be here talking to you fellas about 49ers football. Not a lot to complain about. I mean, maybe one or two things. We'll get there, but all in all, hell of a game, man. I really enjoyed it.
Yeah, it was great. It was great. Mike, how you doing tonight?
I am here, man. I'm having a good time. The game was a lot of fun. High-scoring game. If you are an offensive fan, this game had everything in it that you wanted to see. If you're a defensive fan, this game had everything in it you wanted to see. And even if you like special teams, there was some really good special team plays made by the team. Maybe not in the return game so much, but it was still exciting. I mean, wow, I can't wait to go over this. It was a really, really good game. So Niners back doing what they're supposed to do, and we'll talk about it. I don't want to jump ahead. We'll talk about it.
Yeah, man, it was great. It was a great game. I tweeted out kind of jokingly, Cowboys gave up 7 points this week. Can't relate. Like the 49ers didn't even give up 7 points. Like, let's just put that into perspective. 3 points. Everybody's talking about Jaguars coming off of a 5-game winning streak. And then at the bye, the bye week is such an interesting thing because it can be so many things depending on what your team is going through at the time. The 49ers desperately needed this, not only for a chance to regroup, recalibrate, make adjustments, but also for health. Like I saw Dre Greenlaw on Fred Warner's podcast talking about how perfectly timed this bye week was because he was playing that Cincy game not at 100%. I'm sure a lot of other players were. 49ers were also able to get Trent and Debo back. They were able to kind of regroup, get some juice into them. On the flip side, it looked like the exact opposite happened to the Jags. Like they were rolling, and then the bye week comes. It seems like it kind of tripped them up. Matt, what was your biggest takeaway from this game? The 49ers finally get back in the win column.
My takeaway was that with enough planning, with enough rest, with enough, preparation, that the 49ers can take a good team to task. And they're still a very good team. It was just a couple of weeks of sliding where they couldn't seem to kind of figure out what they were doing, where they were going, how they wanted to proceed with their offense, with their defense. They changed some things up during the bye week. Most notably, the Chase Young trade was a big one that really, added to what the 49ers wanted to do. It's just a chance to reflect and not be in the midst of, we gotta travel here, then we gotta travel home, and then it's back-to-back weeks on the Eastern Seaboard or whatever. You get time to reflect, look through the stuff, and this is Kyle Shanahan's like mid-season adjustment. Typically during the bye week, he looks at what everything has been going on, makes some adjustments from there. And we saw some new wrinkles. We saw some new wrinkles in the offense, particularly on that first drive when they were running Debo on those like rainbow motions or whatever they were. Just little things. And you could see the return of Trent Williams and Debo Samuel made a big difference. Nick Bosa looked really spry. It gave him a chance to really work himself into whatever he needed to be to, whether it was technique or being able to look at film finally or whatever. Nick Bosa looked different. So overall, I think the bye week was definitely beneficial for the 49ers, not so much for the Jaguars.
Yeah. Chase Young, what an acquisition. He just immediately came in, and it's like Nick Bosa was the $120 million man that we signed again, is exactly what he needed. And I know we said last week after the trade deadline, we're all kind of a little ticked that it needed to get to that, to where the Niners needed to go out and get Randy Gregory and Chase Young. But hey, we're here now. We might as well enjoy it. In fact, Chase Young looked pretty good. Mike, what impressed you the most on Sunday from the 49ers?
Wow, the most. That's a loaded question. That's it's not the one. Like of all the stuff I thought you were going to ask me, that is not where I was going to go with it. I will go with every starting pass rusher recording a sack, or at least a half a sack. I don't know the last time that happened. Chase Young, Hargrave, Armstead, Bosa, like these guys. Oh, and the other Cleveland Farrell. I don't know if he recorded a half a sack or not, also, but I mean, just wow. So, guys, this is not the Nothing But Niners overreaction show. I was very specific in the description that we will be doing that tomorrow. This is not the 49ers Nothing But Niners overreaction show. Victory shots will be on deck tomorrow. I promise you guys. But yeah, that defensive line was really, really good. I knew something was up, man. If you guys go back and watch the opening drive for the defense, Matt talked about how impressed he was with some of those rainbow motions by Debo, Kyle Shanahan getting his back early on the opening drive. So did Steve Wilks. The 5 defensive linemen front was back. It was back. First down and second down. Third down, a little bit different, 4-man front, but it was there. And it paid dividends, man. It paid dividends. You could see Dre Greenlaw chomping at the bit. Let me out here. But one of the plays he had to go off, I believe it was second down. And you can see Fred Warner tell him to go away. We don't want to get caught with 12 men in the huddle. But he comes back out again. He's like, no, get your butt to the sideline. Get back over there. He goes back to the sideline. Successful play. And then they get off. Those first 2 3-and-outs by this team, like I just knew, like, oh, man, it's going to be a long day for Jacksonville. It's going to be a long day.
Yeah.
So, it was everything you could want, man. Oh man, what a game! But sacks by the defensive line. That was most impressive.
Yeah. Did you see those couple of plays where they lined up Bosa and Chase Young on either side of the center?
On the inside, yeah.
Yep.
That was beautiful.
And like I said, it was little stuff like that was exciting, right? I don't know how much we're going to get into it, but Steve Wilks coming from upstairs to downstairs. I think I figured out the perfect analogy. Steve Wilks is a guy who takes the data from analytics and tries to figure out how to tweak it, right? So imagine doing that for a new electric car. We want the 0 to 60 to be the fastest. We want the fuel efficiency to be the best. We want the handling to be the best. But all you're doing is you're making these adjustments and these tweaks to this new vehicle based off of paperwork. Being on the sideline is him actually driving it. He gets to see and feel the reaction of the players. It's not that it's going to change what he wants to do. It's not that it's going to make him more or less aggressive. However, he can see and feel what's really working. From the God's eye view, you see how they react, if they're moving and going to the right side of the field, if they're in coverage the right way. But being down on the actual sideline, I think it allows him to feel that energy. I think it allows him to see what they're actually excited about. You can see the defensive line excited about a play, and the secondary wasn't really feeling that play. But when you're up in the booth, you just see was it a success or wasn't it, and why it wasn't. That's it. I think that's the difference right there. He actually got to get behind the wheel of this vehicle that we're putting together. Now you felt it. What would you change? And that was it.
I think there was a telling moment during the broadcast where it was after the Ambry Thomas fumble recovery, where it showed Steve Wilks really yeah, man, dapping him up, giving him a good job. More so, I know a lot of people were like, oh, it doesn't matter, he's going to call the game the same way if he's up there or down on the field, this and this and that. That very well may be true, but do not underestimate what the coach being down there giving you props face to face will do for the players. The players are used to having their defensive coordinator down there. And for him to be back down on the field, it might not make any difference X's and O's wise, but I guarantee you morale wise, it definitely does something for those players. You could just tell with how gassed up they were, at least on the defensive line. And, Ambry Thomas, obviously super excited. They finally did the right thing. Isaiah Oliver barely sniffed the field, which I thought was fantastic because he stinks in coverage. I had people telling me, oh, yeah, but he's great against the run. Like, okay, he's a DB, dude. Like, Like, who cares? You could be, if you're a chef, who cares how you plate your food if it tastes like shit? You know what I mean? Like, the bulk of your job is being able to cover, and he can't do it. So I thought Ambry Thomas had a couple plays where he struggled, but came up, big there. And we'll get to the DBs later. But overall, I thought that you're right, man. Steve Wilks got in his bag too and was out there. And just that interaction with Thomas spoke to me a lot. Rather than just being up there, his little cheaters on, right? Like looking at the screen, reading off the play sheet. I saw more fire and passion out of Steve Wilks too down on the field.
Yep.
I think it's easy to forget that when you're up in the booth, but once you're down on the field in the nitty gritty, man, it's that emotion means a lot to a team that is already so talented, already so athletic, right? But they do falter sometimes in the energy area and in the morale area. That's where this makes the biggest difference.
Yeah. On the flip side, also not only dapped him up and praising them, but when Ward was getting those holding penalties and illegal contact penalties, they flipped the camera on the sidelines, and you see Steve Wilks pulling Ward aside, having a what looked like serious conversation with him. I don't think we saw another penalty from 7 after that. So it was nice to see both sides of it, and that's exactly what I think a lot of people, Matt, and you touched on it, a lot of people really took out of context where, what do you think, magically he's going to learn how to coach again? It's like just simply being around somebody. It's like, take this. Like, did you tell me it's the same conversation you have somebody over text as in person? Like there are social cues, there's tone of voice, there's a bunch of things that you just simply do not get from being in the booth, let alone the fact that it's relayed through another coach. Like you don't have direct communication with him. It's through another coach. Then it gets to Wilks, or then it gets to a player. The fact that he's now directly on the sidelines, I'm not saying this is exactly how this defense is going to be playing for the next, 8 games, but it was a huge sign a huge plus in the right direction. I was very pleased from it.
I was at the airport talking to some of the guys, and they were like, and again, I don't believe it's going to change how he calls the games. I think he might call some of the same plays. It's not going to change the playbook or the play calls, but when he calls certain plays, what plays the guys are excited about. You guys know that my job was recently acquired by a bigger company, and so they told me, we have a role for you for 2 months, but we don't know what's going to happen outside of that. The 2 months came in with, and I recently had my 6-month review, and going into the 6-month review, certain people were asking me, how do you feel? What do you think? And I'm like, I'm nervous. Like, I'll be completely honest with you guys. I'm confident in who I am and what I do, but I'm nervous. Oh, you don't have anything to be worried about. You don't have anything to be worried about. And that's cool. And maybe it calmed me down a little bit. But following my 6-month review, going into the office with the only person that has the power to hire or fire me, and him tell me face to face, I felt way better than all those other people telling me, Mike, you don't have anything to worry about. Mike, you've been doing a great job. People love you. Don't worry about it. It's cool. I appreciate that you feel that way. I appreciate your insight on it. But my direct report, like the person with the power telling me the same thing, felt way different than everybody else telling me, because it doesn't matter if you guys see it or feel it. It matters about the person who has the power to pull the plug on me being here. That's where it really comes from. And that's the benefit, that you guys are talking about. It helps the players even more so than Wilks himself.
So I want to touch on quarterback comparison, right? Because I think it's very, very cool. Just like in week 2, we saw the first overall pick going up against the last overall pick for the first time in NFL history. Well, we saw it again yesterday in Trevor Lawrence and Brock Purdy. And boy, did these pictures look very different. So let me pull up their stats. I tweeted them out. This is just like box score. It's not like EPA or anything crazy in depth like that. Let me make sure the screen. All right, we're all good here. So Trevor Lawrence did not have a good game by any metric. He was 17 for 29, 185 yards, 6.4 yards per attempt, no TDs, 2 interceptions, a 15.1 QBR, and a 48.8 passer rating. Brock Purdy, on the other hand, was 19 of 26, 296 yards, 11.4 yards per attempt averaged, and 3 touchdowns, no interceptions, 87.8 QBR with 148.9 passer rating. Looking at these two quarterbacks on Sunday, I mean, I don't understand how Brock Purdy fell as low as he did, one, and Mike, we talked about this on the preview show with Ammo and Josh. You said Trevor's more of a dink and dunk quarterback. That was kind of your assessment of him. That's pretty much what we saw out of him, minus a couple of throws on Sunday. And look, I'm not saying that's who he is overall, but Matt, I'm gonna give it to you. What did you think of both quarterbacks? Kind of going head to head. Obviously, they didn't play versus one another, but you know what I mean. Just the comparison of the two juxtaposition. Take it away.
Yeah, sure. I think part of the reason Trevor Lawrence struggles is that he hasn't had good coaches. And don't let Doug Peterson's Super Bowl win fool you. I don't think that he's a very good coach. I think that a lot of that was set up through what Frank Reich was doing. And there was a clear drop off when Frank Reich got his job in Indianapolis. Doug Peterson's offenses kind of fell apart. I don't know that he's been done any favors with the coaching, but at the same time, he also looks like he's a little bit lost out there. And, you're a product of your franchise, right? The 49ers traditionally well run. There's a lot of franchises that are well run. You see what kind of quarterbacks they have. You see, they can have success maybe with not the best quarterback. Bad franchises are where good quarterbacks go to die. That's how it is. And the Jacksonville Jaguars are a bad franchise. They have been for a long time. They had an initial run of success with Mark Brunell in the 90s, but that quickly gave way to mismanagement and poor facilities and bad coaching hires and bad decisions, and it just seems like a little bit of that's going on. But I think that it's funny that there are people that will still downplay what Brock Purdy does while giving Trevor Lawrence a pass, because Trevor Lawrence is 6'6" and has the arm and was picked first overall. And they just don't want to acknowledge that a team that, or a player that every team passed on 7 times except for the 49ers, can be a good player. And so we saw that kind of bear out, whereas we saw hesitancy and frankly, a little bit of the Sam Darnold seeing ghosts experience from Trevor Lawrence. We see, despite the 3-game losing streak coming out of the bye with multiple interceptions, that you're just like, what are you doing? There was no lack of confidence in Brock Purdy. He came out doing the same things that he was doing. And he had another one of those, oh my God, throws, and it turned out to be great because it was a Brandon Ayuk touchdown. But as Mike, I'm sure, will agree, the results don't justify the process. And that was a terrible throw, terrible decision that wasn't helped by confusion and miscommunication. I thought George Kittle should have continued to the corner rather than kind of double dipping. And then maybe that throw doesn't look quite as, bad, but then he goes out there and he slings it. You get that bad throw, and then at the same time, you get that beautiful throw where he pumps in a muddied pocket and is able to drop a go route or a wheel route to George Kittle on the sideline, like 35 yards down the field, like no problem, dropping a bucket. I mean, I love the memes of Kyle Shanahan not even looking, just turning around and pumping his fist. Because, I mean, how long has he been waiting for that play to work? And it does. So it's just very interesting to see the dichotomy of where these two were drafted versus what the expectations are versus what excuses people are willing to give one versus not giving another, the credit they're willing to give one versus the one that they're just not wanting to give credit to. It's super interesting. And I think that, the Nick Wrights have some explaining to do in the world, because their takes look like shit. But just let's be honest, they look like shit.
Mike, before I get your thoughts, we got a super chat from our guy Sean Wilks, jumping with enthusiasm, saying, I'm not getting fired today. How do we hide Ambry? He's just there to make the tackle or be right next to a completed pass, a touchdown, of course. Seriously. I didn't think Ambry was too bad. I don't think he was bad at all, actually, this Sunday. Previously, maybe so. But Sunday, he was all right. He wasn't half bad. I think he only gave up 2 catches on 3 targets for like 14 yards or something like that. It wasn't anything crazy. All right, Mike. Now back to the quarterback talk. Thank you again for your contribution, Sean. What did you think of Purdy? What did you think of Lawrence? If you have any thoughts on that.
Oh yeah, I was really I was pleased with Purdy in this game. It was one of those situations where you go into it. Well, I went into it. My expectations were low because of the last 3 games that we had. I knew that he was going to have more confidence because of the fact that Debo was back. I didn't know what variation of Trent Williams we were going to get. I didn't want the Trent Williams that goes to a podium after a game and says, yeah, I should have sat this one out. And so those were the things that concerned me, but it seemed like they didn't let that stuff make or break them at all. Purdy with confidence is scary sometimes, right? Matt talked about that throw across the body. And when I every time I go back and watch that play, there is no fear in Purdy when he's about to let that bitch go.
Yep.
He looked like, oh, I got him. I got him. Like there was he didn't hesitate. It wasn't like I shouldn't do this, but I'm going to do it anyway. He went right for the gusto on that play, man. And it was like, oh my God.
Hey, Mike, don't lie. When he did the Jimmy point, you puckered a little, didn't you? I did too, man. I was like, oh no. We know what that looks like. And I was like,
Yeah.
God. He pointed and I was like, shit.
Yep. But it worked out for us. And I was really happy with Purdy. There were a couple of plays that I know he wished he could have back. I think he took a sack that I thought was more on him than the offensive line even. But if that's what it's going to come down to out of almost 30 attempts, one play where I'm saying, oh, he probably shouldn't have taken a sack, where we've seen him try to throw the ball and call some picks and things like that, I'll take that every time. Take the sack, live to fight another down. And then when it comes to Trevor Lawrence, it's what I've seen. It's what I've seen. If the defense is solid, Trevor Lawrence just can't show up. He's not the gunslinger, in my opinion, that people think that he is. He's just not. I think there's a lot of box score watching, stat watching when it comes to Trevor Lawrence. I've just never seen, and I'm saying that with someone who admittedly has not watched him closely. But the few times that I do watch him, and it's probably not a fair assessment because I'll confess to you guys now, I've watched Caleb Williams 3 times in college. In all 3 games, he was terrible. I think that might be the losses that they have. You know what I mean? Maybe I just picked the wrong times to watch these guys, but I just don't see it with Trevor Lawrence. Not that he's not serviceable, not that he's not confident or anything like that, but when he goes up against top tier defenses, I just don't see it. He's got that one come from behind victory in the postseason that people are going to write home about over and over, and that's cool. That's really, really good. And I understand how that can instill some confidence in you by the fans. But if that's not your norm, if regular close games aren't something that you look confident in, why would I just sit here and say, oh, well, he did this that one time 2 years ago, so I'm not that guy. There's no comparison. Everyone out there can tell you who the better quarterback was on the field that day.
Couple things real quick just to add on to what you said. First of all, I want to make something clear. The decision by Purdy to throw that to Ayuk, terrible decision. The throw itself, amazing throw. That throw was perfect. He put that exactly where it needed to be. It was a bad decision, but the throw was great. I think Trevor Lawrence, there is a little bit of regression this year. I think that overall the Jaguars offense has regressed this year. And I think that's largely a part. I just don't see it with Doug Peterson. They were better last year, and I think that he would be a good quarterback for a different team. I can't count Urban Meyer. Urban Meyer was a complete disaster. You have to just write that off. So with Doug Peterson, I don't really think that he's that good. I don't see it with him. So that makes me just kind of, we saw Carson Wentz fall apart, go from an MVP candidate. He got injured, all of a sudden looked like trash under Doug Peterson, right? Never got it back together. I think that if you were to put, let's just say for the sake of argument, you put Trevor Lawrence here in San Francisco, I think it would look a lot better than he does in Jacksonville.
Absolutely.
Yeah. But yeah, I totally agree with you. Night and day difference. Brock Purdy looked really good. Zach, how are you feeling about the quarterbacks, man?
I was hyped. And hear me out on this, because I was watching that game thinking he looks just like he looked against Cincy for the first 3 quarters, against Minnesota for up until he got concussed. Not like Cleveland. I'm not going to say that because he did not look like he looked in Cleveland. But one, the wheels never fell off. So that was great because they didn't put him in the position where he needed to make a play. 2, he had his surrounding cast playing well. But looking back on, the first half of the Minnesota game, the first half of the Cincinnati game, he was balling out. Those are arguably some of his better performances. And it was only kind of marred by the ending, which obviously is the most important part, right? So I'm not blaming you for doing that. But it's like what we've seen of him. And Mike, when we were doing the preview show with, Josh and Ammo, my main point was if the 49ers come out and score first, I think they're going to win this one. I didn't think it was going to be 34-3, but they're just such a different team. And I know front runner has this negative connotation to it, but it really just allows them to play a different style of football that they're a lot more comfortable playing. The defense can pin their ears back and just go get after the passer. They were able to get the ball or defer, and then get the ball in the second half and double up on points. It wasn't a touchdown and a touchdown, but it was a field goal and a touchdown. Purdy looked really, really good. And I think that this probably was his best game of his career, along with the best throw he's ever made in his career, which was that second half, first drive pass to George Kittle along the sideline, which is what we've been begging more of. Not only Kittle targets, but give your man a chance to make a play on the ball. You have how many of the best players on this team? Just toss it up there and let them go one-on-one, especially when there's no safety over top. Let them go for it. Worst case, it falls incomplete. Best case, we saw what happened. Kittle walks into the end zone untouched. So just the fact that he allows himself to trust his receivers, I think speaks volumes. And Matt, I love that you pointed that out on that first touchdown. He's telling Kittle, go the fuck to the corner, like get over there. And what does Kittle do for the second time in 2 games? Goes to where another receiver is, bringing a defender with him, crowding the space even more. So I think in his defense, he said he nodded to the right, thinking Kittle would understand reverse logic and he would go to the left and he would leave Ayuk open. So I don't know. The decision-making on that one wasn't great, but it was a great play.
Kittle seems to have this ability to freestyle in the route running on extended plays. I don't know if you guys remember, I believe it was Brock Purdy against Washington. It was supposed to be a Ray McCloud touchdown, and Kittle snatched it from him. Looked very similar. Obviously, it was a deeper pass attempt on that play. Yeah. But this is not the first time we've seen Kittle just freestyle back there and bring traffic somewhere else. I can almost guarantee you guys, Kyle is never designed to play more than 10 yards down the field where the receivers are right on top of each other at the time the ball is arriving. Never. And so this is 4 times that I can remember with Kittle being involved in it. I think he just kind of freestyles a little bit. So, but it was still really fun to see. Like Matt said, the decision, terrible. The results and execution, phenomenal. And that's what you want to see, man. That was a lot of fun. Another thing that was really, really fun to see in this game, the most pointless drive of the game, I was on my feet for it the entire time. The very last drive, when Kyle realized Christian McCaffrey had a chance to make history with 18 consecutive games with a touchdown. They had pulled all the starters at one point, and he slowly trickled them back in there. He never put Purdy back out on the field, but he let Christian McCaffrey go back out there. They used Debo on a big 3rd down on that drive, or was it a 4th down? They converted it, whatever down it was, but it was the McCaffrey drive. And what was impressive to me about it, we didn't get it, but it was the fact that Kyle is now coaching for the players. It was an opportunity. We remember that Broncos game where Kittle needed, 10 more yards or something like that to set an all-time tight end record. And that they asked Kyle about it at the podium. He was like, I didn't know. And if I had have known, I probably would have done something different. Well, now these guys are having fun. Yeah. They're playing and coaching for each other. I thought that was the most meaningful drive of that entire game, and it meant absolutely nothing in the outcome of the game. But it just showed the mentality. When we're clicking and we're playing for each other, Kyle's going to give you a shot. And there's a part of me that says, damn, man, I wonder if he put Brock Purdy in there. That last throw on 4th down to Christian McCaffrey, if that went towards the pylon instead of inside, I think Christian McCaffrey gets that and he sets the record. I do.
Yeah, agreed. And I pulled this up just to put some context to Brock Purdy's performance. His NFL rank since the merger among 339 quarterbacks with 400-plus attempts, pass rating, 108.9, ranked first. Completion percentage, 68.1, ranked first. Yards per attempt, 8.8, ranked first. Pass touchdowns per attempt, 6.7%, ranked first. Like, the narrative that he's this dink and dunk quarterback or a system,
Oh yeah, that's dumb.
it's dumb. He has the highest average pass per attempt, yards per attempt in the NFL.
Yeah, but that's all yak, bro.
Yeah.
Like all 3 of his touchdowns were over 10 air yards, man. Like, what are you talking about?
That's happened.
By the way, I
3
love
times.
seeing Duke get a downfield pass for a touchdown. That was cool.
Yeah.
I know people were mad. And talking about the CMC thing, man, people talk out of both sides of their mouth, right? Like, oh man, that juice touchdown, that should have been McCaffrey. Also, why is McCaffrey in there when they're up 31? This is stupid. Like, that's what you're going to pull out of this game, and that's what a lot of people are pulling out of this game.
Did you see
I thought the offense did a good job overall with some notable exceptions. I don't want to speak too much about it until we get there. There are some negatives to this game that I'd love to discuss because I don't know that I'm as high on this game as everybody is right now.
The quote from Christian McCaffrey really cracked me up where he goes, Juice wanted me to score more than anything unless it was him scoring, like something along those lines, like you wanted me to score more than anyone unless it was him. So, hey,
I love Christian McCaffrey in the post-game press conference going like, oh yeah, man, everybody else except me scored today. I suck. Yeah. Like so funny, man.
Yep.
Love it.
It was good. Go ahead,
Juice
Mike.
quote tweeted that and said, now finally somebody understands me.
Yeah.
So they again, they're playing for and with each other, Pauls. Like they are having a good time out there on the field. And as far as that dink and dunk stuff goes, the Niners had 9 plays over 20 yards in that game yesterday. 9 plays over 20 yards. I don't think people even realize how. I can't wait to watch the full TV copy. I started watching it. I got excited and I realized how late it was. And I was like, I got to turn this off or I'm not going to get any sleep and I'm going to be a zombie tomorrow. So I turned it off. I can't wait to go through and watch this whole thing again. Because one thing about going to the game is that you only get that one view. I can't wait to see all the different angles, pay more attention to who's where and what they're doing. Oh, I can't wait.
Also, I love seeing how in control Purdy is of this offense. Not only, navigate directing Kittle in that first touchdown, but Juice's touchdown as well. Juice is kind of slowing into an empty spot in the zone in the defense. And Purdy's like telling him, no, back, go straight back instead of continuing your route. And I'm going to hit you right there. And I saw people, Juice should have taken a knee. Bro, when you get a chance to score in the NFL, you take it, especially as a fullback. Sorry, Christian, you don't get your 18th straight touchdown. I'm going to get my 15th in my 11th year. Come on, man. You take the touchdown when you can get it.
And here's the thing. Wasn't it illustrated on the very last drive that when you try to force it to somebody, the defense knows what you're going to do, and they're not just going to lay down for you? They tried to force feed McCaffrey the ball in the red zone the entire time, and it went nowhere. So, I don't know. That's weird to me. But hats off to the offense. Like Mike said, a 20-yard play 9 times in a game is pretty outstanding and pretty rare. That's very explosive offense. And doing that with some of the issues that they have, super cool, man.
Before we get to the negatives, let's get into these super chats. Thank you, everybody, for your contributions. Keith Murphy, the unbeaten, says, my boys can't do the boombox entrance without Debo and Trent. We look soft without him. Well, hey, add Chase Young to that mix, too. Now, he was getting hyped up there in the front. It's a good crew. Sean said, Kittle did the same thing on his 3. Go ahead.
Sorry. How tall did Chase Young look in those videos? I had to go back and check, what the hell? He looked taller than Trent Williams. I don't know if it was
I think Trent Williams and Chase Young are both 6'5".
Damn. He's a beast. Sean says, Kittle did the same thing on his 3 touchdown game with Purdy. Took it from Ray. Did you see Kyle jump up and down on that Kittle touchdown? How many times Kyle's wife wakes up to him screaming, the wheel route, Jim? That's funny, man. We never see Kyle celebrating. It's always throwing his play call sheet up.
As soon as he saw the ball was in Kittle's hands, he didn't even watch him go into the end zone. He pumped his fist. He was like, hell yeah, it worked. Because he knows his plays are money. He just has to have the guy to run it.
Do you guys bowl?
Yeah.
Bowl?
Yeah.
Yeah. So I'm in a league every Wednesday, and when you're in the zone, you're just in the zone. There's times where I let the ball go and I turn around, I'm like, yes, and you just hear the explosion behind you. Now it backfires every once in a while because they're like, oh, one's still standing. You know what I mean? But It's just you just know, you feel it. Like, when that is like the perfect release, you could tell the spin was right, the rotation was right, and it's gonna go down there and do what it's supposed to do. And that's why Kyle turns around with the fist pump early. It's like, gotcha.
Every now and then, though, you look like Nick Young on that 3-pointer where he turned around and he's like, whoop, 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 and then it just out. You're like, oh no.
All right. Keith Murphy, the unbeaten, with another super chat. Thank you, my man. Hey, and the losses, McCaffrey was the only one scoring every game. If he's not going to score and we win, I'm fine. LOL.
So is Christian McCaffrey.
Yep. It's the main thing.
That's why he could go to the podium and make that joke, because it was 34-3 and he don't give a shit.
Yeah.
He contributed. Like, he had, what was it, 90 yards rushing and another like 30 or 40 receiving.
Mm-hmm.
Like, he had 125 yards from scrimmage again. So he definitely was a big part of that offense and remains a huge part of what the 49ers want to do.
No.
So he's not mad about it.
No.
And he's still in the record book, by the way. It's just he's not the sole owner of the record.
Nope. What's that, Mike?
No, I think that's something that goes understated about this 49ers team, is that when we are clicking on all cylinders, these guys are the most selfless stars, these skill position players. Debo was so excited when Brandon Ayuk got that first touchdown. Like, they celebrated and then started walking out the end zone and was like, hold on, let's do our handshake real quick. And they did that. They patty caked it up again before leaving the end zone. You know what I'm saying? Like, these guys sincerely celebrate each other's success, and it is a great thing to see. And I think that's sincere. That's hard to fake.
Yeah.
That's really, really hard to fake. And these guys go there and they just do it. It's beautiful.
Yeah, agreed. Gray Fox 198. Hey fellas, thanks to Mike and Zach's hoagie anecdote, I save myself the embarrassment of asking what a hoagie is at a cafe here in Seattle. Lol. Ask Mike to tell Brett to chill. You're a great dude. See, Mike, not the only one who didn't know what a hoagie was.
Yeah, and I got to be careful what I tweet out, guys. I don't want any smoke. That I'm not gonna date it, but it's a really, really old DM from Jason Verrett that I was talking about on Twitter. What's done is done. He's not gonna unblock me, and it's okay. I don't even know. He hasn't tweeted in a year, so it's all right. But he's a good guy. He's still one of my favorite players. One of the guys that he's actually still active. I don't know if you guys knew this. He's 32 years old, and he's actually signed with the Houston Texans right now. He's on their practice squad. But the fact that it's November and he's still, never mind. I'm going to sound like a hater. But yeah, good for him. Keep up the good work, buddy.
Damn. All right. I think we have one more in here. Keith Murphy, the unbeaten. With Chase off the bus, we look amazing. It looks unstoppable. It really does. I was trying to find the pressure tally before we moved into the negatives for the 49ers.
Well, while you're looking for that,
yes, please.
Did you guys think that Nick Bosa looked different? Honestly, we talked about how the players looked responding to Wilks. We talked about Wilks' responses to the players. Did you guys think Nick Bosa looked different with Chase Young out there?
I do. I think that, and it was clear. You can see it on the sideline. There were a couple of videos of it. For all the jokes that people make about Nick Bosa, we all know which jokes they're talking about or whatever. You could just tell how excited he was to have his college buddy there with him. Yeah. You know what I mean? Like, this was something that he was super excited about, and it showed with how he was playing. Nick Bosa was all over the field, dude. Like, he looked like a man. He looked like the reigning defensive player of the year, finally. Yeah. Right? And so 1.5 sacks for him. I mean, but, again, if it's 1.5 sacks, really what it is, 3 half sacks. I knew they were going to take – there was one where, like, it was essentially Nick Bosa, and I think it was either Javon Hargrave or Eric Armstead or somebody helped clean it up, right? But it was essentially Nick Bosa's sack, so it probably should have been 2. But he also had the forced fumble and the fumble recovery. So I'm going to take a win on that. I think if you get 3 half sacks, that counts as 3 sacks and a forced fumble. So we're going to take it. We're going to take it. He was there. But you could just tell that he was super happy to have Chase Young there. And I think really that the bye week gave him an opportunity to reassess what was going on, maybe even get himself in a little bit better shape, actually have some real meaningful practices, because that this was their first real meaningful practices other than install, film work, walkthrough, right? Because they've been traveling so much. And we talk about the 49ers being down rest days. They got some rest. They were able to get back. They were able to do some stuff. Shout outs to Brock Purdy. Apparently, helping your family with the harvest, the fall harvest, actually helps you play quarterback better. So, yeah, getting your mind right. It's the mental aspect of the game, I think, is super important. And I think that Nick Bosa is another guy that benefits from Steve Wilks down on the field. So great to see him. He looked great, man.
I think he looked like it was more effortless, less, I don't know, how do I put this? Like it took less effort out of him to get the job done. And this season, we had seen him more kind of emotional, like showing it with his emotions, usually in the negative, unfortunately. I think going back to Cincinnati, letting up that run for a touchdown, and it kind of throws his arms up in the air that there's no defender behind him when he missed the tackle. And Sunday in Jacksonville, we saw him positive emotions. We saw him excited. We saw him happy. We saw him laughing, almost like he was a high schooler again, with his buddy. So I think it just allowed him to play a lot freer and allowed him to really just go after the quarterback. He looked like the guy we gave the contract to. He looked like the guy who really could wreck games single-handedly, and he did. I mean, when he forced that fumble, the Jags were driving down the field. At that point, it was at most a 10-point game. I don't remember what the score was. It wasn't that crazy of a lead, but he completely ended that drive and got the ball back for the 49ers. And him and Young are just a hell of a pairing. So it's good. I have the stats here. Mike, did you have anything to add about that? Okay. So let's, before we get into the negatives, I got to shout out John Feliciano, because he came in and started for Aaron Banks. Aaron Banks dealing with the turf toe and played pretty damn well. Let me pull up my guys here. All right. So pressures allowed in Jacksonville. Trent Williams had 4. McKivitz had 4. John Feliciano only had 1. And Brendel and Burford both had clean sheets. So the offensive line in the center was solid, and on both edges was not solid. And we saw that with Brock Purdy getting pressured for his life. Some plays and other plays, he had 3+ seconds back there to throw the ball. Did you guys have any thoughts on the offensive line? Feliciano, McKivitz, who ended up getting rolled up on the end.
That'll be that's going into my negatives. I am interested in this question in the chat though, from Steven Fox. What's your highest bowling score? Zach, you want to go?
I would not be able to tell you. I don't.
Mike, what about you?
It's been so long.
Wait, 241 or 242 is my highest.
Okay. I've hit the 260s a couple times.
Oh, nice.
I haven't been able to bowl in the last few years because I've had shoulder surgeries and like I have some arthritis in my shoulder, and like bowling, I can do maybe 1 or 2 games now occasionally. Otherwise, my shoulder gets too sore. But back in the day, I loved bowling. I'm doing the, like you see on TV, right? The curve from right to left, the whole thing, reading the lane. But I love bowling. I just wish that, my shoulder was up to the task anymore.
Yeah.
He says his is 268. Dude, that's a good ass score, man.
You guys are good. I haven't touched the 260s at all. So that's really impressive.
I just love the public lanes when you get the turkey, the 3 strikes in a row, and then it plays like the turkey sounds and stuff.
Yeah.
Some of those graphics are so stupid and so fun. I do maintain that my best bowling comes from games 2 to 4, right? I get there, I got to warm up with the bowling pins and warm up with the booze. And I hit a sweet spot, and then after game 4, I'm toast.
Right. The ball has to get the oils from the lane so it can react naturally and all that stuff. You can't just go in there at one time and think that's it. It builds up. So it's pretty interesting. Like the people that do this shit for a living, that I bowl with guys there in this league where it's a 300 every 2 weeks. We do 3 games a night every 2 weeks. One of them is getting a 300. It's almost like discouraging, but hey, they've got great averages, and that's why my team is always in it. So it works out for us.
I do remember one time I visited my brother-in-law at a new place that he moved in, and for whatever reason, this apartment had like bowling lanes as like an amenity for the apartment building, but they were public use and nobody oiled them. Bowling on that thing was insane. It made no sense. The ball just went all sorts of ways. I was like, this sucks, dude.
Can't even imagine what that would be like.
Anyways, let's get into the negatives.
Yep, let's do it.
Boy, let me start, man. Colt McKivitz, he stinks. He sucks. He sucks. I hate that guy. I would rather them kick Spencer Burford out to the right tackle and play John Feliciano as a guard, because it can't get much worse. I saw a play where he just got literally dog walked into Brock Purdy. Like, dude put a leash on him. I think it was Josh Allen actually that did it. Put a leash on him and walked him into Brock Purdy. I can't, Trent Williams, I understand. He missed a bunch of weeks. He's a little rusty. He gave up 4 pressures per PFF, whatever that's worth, because I guess, I don't know, Brock Purdy's first touchdown pass was not considered a turnover-worthy play. I don't know how that works, but the eyeball test tells you that McKivitz is, I hate to say this, man, McKivitz is worse than Mike McGlinchey. That's just facts, dude.
Yes, I
fact.
told you guys.
He is worse than Mike McGlinchey. Hey, listen, that's the difference between having soft poop and diarrhea, okay? It's all shit.
But also ones that you paid $70 million for. I'd take a little bit worse for the money they're saving not having McGlinchey here.
I would take the 49ers actually drafting people where it matters.
Yeah. If only
waiting. They could have had listen, here's some of the guys that they could have had on the offensive line. Creed Humphrey. No, don't do it. Okay, I won't do it. I'll just say Creed Humphrey because I love that guy.
I didn't know you could hear me. I thought I was on mute.
I saw you shaking your head.
Oh, okay. Yeah, it's a nasty game.
I won't do it. I know it's a nasty business.
It's frustrating.
It gets so bad.
We have 2 tight ends that we don't use.
You're coming off an off season where you lose the NFC Championship game because your quarterback gets blasted and injures his elbow, and you put not a single meaningful asset into the offensive line to improve it, right? Look at the 49ers made 2 trades. Where'd they go? The goddamn defensive line. And listen, I'm glad that Chase Young is here. He looked really good. It definitely marginalizes the Randy Gregory trade a little bit, but that was essentially a rental for free anyway, so who cares? But to not put any assets into the protection of Brock Purdy, to me, is mind-boggling. I don't understand it. And McKivitz is barely a backup tackle, let alone a starting right tackle. I'm tired of seeing McKivitz's name each and every week. I'm tired of seeing him on the highlight reel of other players because he's just getting absolutely worked. It's pathetic.
Yeah. I'd rather see Jalen Moore at this point. He did pretty well filling in for Trent Williams, if I remember correctly. See how he could do on the right side. Bench McKivitz, which he might, because, like I said, McKivitz got rolled up on at the end of the game. I know Kyle said he's day-to-day, but we'll see how that ankle feels.
McKivitz missed time and Jalen Moore or somebody else had to fill in. That could be a huge blessing in disguise for the 49ers.
Yeah. So, Mike, you have any thoughts?
Addition by subtraction. I like it. Yeah. No, the offensive line definitely needs some help, but I saw a lot of rolling to the left in this last game for Brock Purdy. And it seems like Kyle's going to say, all right, let them just come that way. We'll do what we got to do on the other side of the field. So it's cool. I'll take it. As long as we can be productive, we'll make it work. But you can't live that way. It's a Band-Aid. It's a Band-Aid. It's a Band-Aid on something that we need stitches and staples and the glue that, holds all that shit together. So we got to get there.
Yeah, Ian Sharp says keep Feliciano in there. I've been I don't know if I've said it on here, but I know I've said it for a fact on Twitter. He's a solid veteran offensive lineman. Like, this is a guy the 49ers could win a lot of games, could play a lot better with. You good there, Matt?
The Broncos did one of the craziest fucking things.
Okay.
Okay. Okay.
Don't tell me the results.
Ooh, 12 men on the field. They got bailed out, dude.
Down.
They did a third down play where Russell just ran it to the side and kneeled it with no timeouts in 24 seconds.
Don't say it. No, he's recording it. Don't say it.
I got to record it.
He doesn't want to know the results.
Okay.
He doesn't want to know the results.
My bad.
No, you're good. You're good. All right. Okay.
Dang. Wow, you're gonna enjoy it, bro.
All right. One
That
thing
was
I
not
wanted.
the craziest thing that happened either in that sequence that Matt's
Okay,
talking
all
about.
right, thank you. One thing I wanted to talk about. We're getting into the negatives of this game, and I just gotta say it. That was a bitch move by Trevor Lawrence, diving at Ambry Thomas's ankles after he returned the fumble. He's at the back of the end zone,
In the
and
end
not
zone.
halfway through the end zone. And for some reason, Trevor Lawrence goes and dives at his feet. And I think it was Lenore that was in there with them. And it looks like he kind of told him, like, yo, what the fuck are you doing, dude? Like, he's already in the end zone. Like, it should have been, they called the 49ers coaching staff and the backup players for being on the field. But there should have been an unsportsmanlike penalty called on Trevor Lawrence as well for diving at Ambry Thomas's feet.
Hey, Zach, ignore the chat for like 15 minutes, bro.
Yeah. No, I got it. I won't read it. But I don't know. I'm sure you guys saw that play as well from Trevor Lawrence, but that shit pissed me off because
I saw that, yeah, and I thought that should have been a penalty. Like, I don't like seeing guys go at people's lower extremities from behind in general, but he was well in the end zone. Like, I don't know what that was. I don't know if that was Trevor Lawrence trying to say, "Hey, I'm going to play through the whistle," type of thing, right? Like, there's a side of me. I try to say if it was the other way around, would I compliment Brock Purdy for not giving up on the play? But this guy was well within the end zone. He was well in the end zone. And speaking of what I think are dirty plays, while you're on it, I want to go back. I heard Eric Armstead's post-game presser.
Yep.
The play that he got injured on, he said the guy tripped him and kicked him. So I want to go back and see it. I haven't seen anybody post a play online. Oh, see, all right. So he's not quite there yet. Okay, it's different than what it looked like in real time.
But look at
Where
that.
he made contact was halfway through, but he's diving way before. He can't help that he's
he's in the air, man.
He's
Like I will
Thomas
say,
left up. He's clearly in the end zone. If this was the other way around,
but wait. Rewind that though. Rewind that a little bit. Look at like the 4-yard line. That dude starts to stumble on his ass, dude. Like he's going down anyway. He's just trying to do whatever.
Okay.
Look at him. He's like in a face plant, man.
But then he jumps forward.
When it's slow like this, it doesn't look as bad.
He jumps forward right there and wraps his arms around Thomas. Like he could have just fallen, and that wouldn't have been as big of a problem.
Bro, I bet you if we had an end zone shot, I bet you Lawrence's eyes weren't even open.
That looks like a lot of momentum, and it looks like he was running so fast that he just was
that he was
forward.
outrunning. Yeah, it's like when a baby runs too fast, right? And then they fall forward.
I don't know. I don't extend my arms like this when I'm falling forward. He's purposely grabbing for Thomas's legs.
I've seen way worse, dude. I've seen way worse.
Well, sure. I'm not saying it's the most egregious play.
When you're falling, your arms go down to brace for impact. When you're diving, it's a forward. So I do understand what Zach is saying.
I just thought it was a cheap shot. It should have been a penalty on both teams, and it wasn't, which was, I know we don't like to be those people. There were a handful of questionable calls Sunday.
That's why I renamed the chat what I renamed it, Zach. We know what it was.
I know, but it is what it is. They deserve to be called out.
Sure. I think the biggest thing, though, that I didn't enjoy about that entire play was the fact that not only do you have D. Winters and I forget who the other player was come off the sideline right in the middle of a play. So now you have a legal substitution, which wipes off the touchdown. But, you know, on initial viewing, I'm like, oh, damn, there's a coach out there, too. Lo and behold, screenshot, it's Kyle Shanahan.
Yeah.
What are you doing? And this is getting into the negatives. Another game where you have a ton of penalty yards, 7 penalties for 90 yards. Charvarius Ward out there. Boy, that dude is so grabby. Like, I don't understand. And it's just, this is something beyond the offensive line, which we talked about already. I think that everybody's caught up in the 34-3 final score. For me personally, I think that that's more of a product of Doug Peterson wanting to run the offense that he wanted to run rather than the one that was going to win them the game. Because on their only scoring drive, you saw the recipe for success. The 49ers had no answer for those screen passes. They had none. They went right up the field with those. And when he got away from that, that's when it got dicey. Getting the ball out quick and targeting Charvarius Ward was working for them. He was committing penalties. The same holes in the secondary are there. But because the defensive line played very well and Doug Peterson allowed the defensive line enough time to get home on the quarterback, it masked a lot of those issues. And my fear for this is we take teams with a coach who's a better caliber coach than Doug Peterson, and it probably won't be this week, right? I fully expect the 49ers to mollywop the Tampa Bay Buccaneers. I just expect that, because the Bucs to me aren't a very good team, regardless of what you say. Todd Bowles, the defensive guy. Baker Mayfield is still Baker Mayfield, and I know Nick Bosa and Chase Young are going to be super excited about that matchup. But once we start getting into, team like Baltimore, a team like Seattle, right? Like that you see twice. We got to see Arizona one more time with Kyler Murray back. When you get to these teams who have seen what the 49ers do, know what they're capable of, know how to attack the defense, I think that some of the same holes are going to be exposed that we saw exposed during that 3-game losing streak. And Chase Young will make that better. Nick Bosa, being fully on board, in shape, right? Like he got a rest after that no camp, straight into games. He got a rest to catch his breath. That's going to help. The pass rush, don't get me wrong, is going to help. But let's not pretend like Diamador Lenore missed a bunch of goddamn tackles again, right? Let's not pretend like Ambry Thomas, who got the fumble recovery, sure, didn't give up some big catches in the slot. He did. That's going to be a problem going forward with the slot corner. Let's not pretend like Charvarius Ward isn't a liability in terms of committing penalties. 2 illegal contacts again, and then one that was going to be a penalty but was declined because the receiver caught it. Now we got a pass deflected. That was great. That was a great play. But I see the little cracks in the armor that they're going to really have to work on if they want to make a deep playoff run. And those are the things that I kind of worry about.
I want to talk about something that has been a problem for the 49ers and was on Sunday, defending screen passes. They just, for the life of them, cannot stop them. And it's a classic use your strength against you move by the opposing teams, because they use the aggressiveness against the 49ers defense when they're pinning their ears back and rushing the quarterback. They just dump it right over them. And I don't know if it was a screen pass that ended up being intercepted by Hufanga, but there was a little dump off pass to Tank Bigsby that the pressure from Bosa forced an errant pass. But the only drive that the Jaguars got points on was, like, I think 3 out of the 5 plays were screen passes. Like, for some reason, they just can't defend them. And it's extremely frustrating to watch, because it's, 10-yard gain, 12-yard gain, 7-yard gain. Like, they're always bigger, medium to bigger gains. And hopefully, who loves screen passes? The Eagles. Like, they screen pass teams to death. So hopefully this is something the 49ers can clean up moving forward. And chasing back all these negatives, the Jags only got 3 points. We're discussing the negatives. Like, that's the whole point of this portion of the show. The first 40 minutes was all of the great things the Niners did. We're going to keep it real, and there were some bad things too.
And I will say, don't confuse a great result with future concerns, right? Because the caveat is, again, I don't think much of Doug Peterson as a coach. And the one scoring drive they did things that actually exposed the 49ers defense, and then they went away from those things because they wanted to run however they wanted to run their offense, right? I think that with teams that do things that can attack the 49ers' weaknesses, we're going to see some of the same issues, because yes, you got Chase Young. That's fantastic. Yes, Steve Wilks was down on the sideline. That's fantastic. Nick Bosa looked really good, right? Javon Hargrave looked fired up. Javon Hargrave played a big role in the defense. I think he had 1.5 sacks in this game, right? Talanoa Hufanga, interception. Fred Warner, interception. Fred Warner, by the way, Fred Warner looks amazing this year. He's so good. But the fact of the matter is, Charvarius Ward, still penalties. Diamador Lenore, still not tackling, not wrapping up, not tackling. The slot corner, still a problem, giving up plays. There are issues in the secondary and the back end of this defense that can only be hidden for so long by a pass rush until a team does what has been the 49ers bugaboo so far, which is other teams getting the ball out quick in space to playmakers. That becomes a problem for the 49ers. So, you're pinning your pass rush back and having them go straight after the quarterback. You're expecting your 2 to 3 linebackers, mostly 2 linebackers, to play side-to-side defense in the short term. And then you're playing your corners off the ball 8-9 yards. And so by the time the screen gets out there, they have open daylight and they're running away with it. And we've seen that time and time again. So yes, this week was a great result coming off a bye week. I'm going to take it. Jacksonville was 6-2 coming into the game, and we absolutely walloped them. But it is a concern with, are we going to see Jacksonville before the Super Bowl? No. Is Jacksonville going to make the Super Bowl? Probably not. Right? I'm not worried about how the 49ers do against Jacksonville. I'm worried how they do against the Philadelphia Eagles of the world, the Kansas City Chiefs of the world, the Cincinnati Bengals, who kind of dog walked us in our house of the world. You know what I mean? And their loss notwithstanding, but there are teams that take advantage of, in a way that the Jacksonville Jaguars just didn't. So this is just me. And that bolsters again with the 49ers not putting any assets into the offensive line to protect Brock Purdy. Those are the two big weaknesses I see. Beyond that, I think the team is really, really good. But again, they're a team with weaknesses. And in the playoff field where those weaknesses get magnified under a microscope of all good teams all in a row, can the 49ers overcome those? I'm not sure.
Mike, did you have any areas of weakness you want to touch on?
Yeah, I'm going to touch on one that you guys didn't get, and it's points off of turnovers. The Niners had 4 turnovers in this game and only scored on 2 of those possessions. Now, that's 50%. That's great. But in a game where you might get only 2, that's not that good. You got to make these teams pay. Got to at least get 3 out of this. Like, it's a turnover for crying out loud. And these weren't the Aaron Rodgers turnovers where it'd be 3rd and long, so he'll just throw a Hail Mary and say it's equivalent to a punt, right? Let's see if we can get a flag on it. It wasn't those kind of turnovers. Like, the first one that we scored off of was the failed Ambry Thomas one that you highlighted. And I felt like that was in the second half. Like, the turnovers didn't mean anything early in the game, right? The guys got invigorated. They were, oh yeah, let's go. We're here. It's going to be a long game for y'all. Not so fast. So we have to capitalize on those turnovers if we want to be the team that's going to make the run against the Cowboys and the Eagles and those other Seahawks, the Lions. We have to make these teams pay once we get those turnovers, and they weren't doing that. So, and it's cool. Like I said, you want to see these guys get better as it goes along, 0 for 2 and then 2 for 2 down the stretch, but you got to see it continue now. Continue.
I want to touch on this last one, and then we can move on. But Raphael? Gio. Brock Purdy does this thing right before he's about to get sacked. He tries to flip the ball out to get an incomplete pass instead of a sack. Look, brother, I appreciate the effort, but just take the fucking sack. Because with the way these refs are calling shit, that could have gone either way. That one on Sunday could have just as easily been called a fumble. They kind of let it play. The Jags ran and recovered it and acted like it was a fumble, even though it was clearly an underhand pass. But then you get the intentional grounding on top of that. And it's like, I appreciate the effort. Please, I appreciate you having the wherewithal and the knowledge to know within like 2.5 seconds of you getting tackled, you know what? Maybe if I flip this out right by my running back's legs, I can prevent from losing yards. Just take the sack, bro. Please. I would much rather face a 2nd and 17 than, either a fumble getting ruled. That was kind of an iffy call, or now an intentional grounding, loss of downs, 10-second runoff, like the situation the 49ers were in. So I've seen it a handful of times. I thought this is something he would have stopped doing by now. And I say by now, he's still in his first season's worth of starts, but it's happened so many times that you would think it would have been a coaching point. I don't think it has been. Hopefully he can stop doing this, because just take the sack, man. Learn to fight another down.
It makes me so nervous. And because he's trying to do something with the ball right before he goes down, all it takes is a fingertip on that ball, and they'll say, oh, that's not an incomplete pass. It's a fumble.
Look at Philly. Look what happened in Philly.
Right. Like, dude, please stop that shit, please. So
I'm with you. And listen, you never know how they're going to call these, right? The Cleveland Browns game, PJ Walker.
Yes.
To me, that's like, dude shoveled it underhand. You should not get rewarded for shoveling it underhand. That should be a fumble. I don't care if your arm's going forward or not. That underhand shit, you know what I mean? You never know how they're going to call it. I thought that should have been a fumble. It wasn't. what Brock, it's the one thing where I'm just like, hey man, just take the loss, because guess what? You took the loss anyway because they called intentional grounding. It's the same result. But the difference is when you're sacked and you just tuck the ball, you're not putting it in danger. I understand having a position to be able to maybe throw the ball, but man, there was no way he was getting that out there. That was just a hope and a prayer. And just sometimes it's just better to tuck and run. But it's a fine line between, clearly Brock Purdy's a playmaker. It's a fine line between telling him, hey man, like try to protect the ball in these situations, and making him gun shy. You don't want to do that. So it's going to be something that Kyle Shanahan and Brian Greasy have to work with with Purdy on. But I have confidence that they can kind of figure this out, because this was not something I felt like Brock Purdy did a lot last year. It's something that I've seen really in the last month. And it could, I don't know, is Brock Purdy feeling himself a little too much? Maybe, I don't know. But it's up to the coaches to kind of rein that in a way that's not going to make him hesitant to make the throws that we know he needs to make. So who knows, man? I just that play in particular, I was like, oh God, man, what are you doing? Take the sack.
Yeah, it's frustrating, but again, hopefully it's all coach worthy. Gio asked how Chase Young graded out. I don't know if you're talking about like PFF grades. I don't know if they're out yet. But I did see he had 4 pressures in Jacksonville, which was tied for the most. Nick Bosa, Bosa, and Hargrave all had 4. The defense in total generated 16. Oh yeah. So impressive. Mike, do you have anything to add?
One more negative for you guys before we move on, and I'll let it go. The second sack of the game, everybody met at the quarterback except Eric Armstead. And I saw it. I haven't been able to go back and watch it yet, but it looked to me like he was dropping in coverage.
Mm-hmm. Yep,
Eric
he
Armstead?
did. They dropped him in coverage. They've done it They did it 2 or 3 times, and that was a positive for me. Simply the not dropping him in coverage, but the fact that there were multiple times where there were 9 people on the line, and you had no idea. Some of them are standing up, some of them are on the 3-point stance. You had no fucking idea who's coming at you. Okay, so I was listening to, I'm going to credit them, the Morning Roast, Bonte Hill and Joe Shasky this morning. They talked about this, and they brought up James Harrison's 101-yard touchdown return in the Super Bowl against the Cardinals. And what does Kurt Warner say all the time? I had no fucking clue that James Harrison, of all people, would drop into coverage. He's never dropped into coverage once in film, and he dropped into coverage and picked me off. I did not expect him to be there. So I just think that was Wilks maybe trying to mix things up, trying to get Lawrence uncomfortable. But in a vacuum, yes, please don't drop Eric in coverage anymore, please. But I appreciate the effort. Sorry, Mike. I didn't mean to go on a tangent.
No, it's cool. I'm definitely going to pull my hair out if I got to see it 3 more times in the same game. Like, I was losing my shit. And I was like, he had his guy beat. Looked like easily. Why didn't he get that? And it was like, oh, wait, did he drop back in coverage? Like, what the hell was that? So now you're telling me it happened a couple of times in the game. I'm going to lose my mind, but we'll see how it goes. I did see a lot of the disguises of the blitzes or not just blitzes, because sometimes they only send 3 people, so it wasn't even like they were sending, but they would crowd that line just to throw some more for Lawrence to look at and confuse him. And he looked like a second-year guy out there. Like he looked like a rookie almost. They did a good job, man. Again, I think the players enjoy that, and I think that's why he did it so much. He's out there on the sideline. Those guys are like, yeah, it was fun. We really had him messed up. His eyes are going everywhere. He's all bug-eyed. You don't get that on the phone when you call down in between plays. So that was cool.
He looked like, dare I say, a 7th-round pick, Trevor Lawrence. I'm kidding. All right. Shall we get into our chat pack question? Before we do, we got to pay the bills. So we'll be right back from a second from today's sponsor. Just want to take a second to thank today's sponsor, MyBookie. As a bettor, you demand perfection, and MyBookie delivers. NFL, college football, and a brand new cash out system gives you options to bet and win all season long. The first 2 legs of your parlay hit, cash out early and use the funds on another bet or you could let it ride for the chance of a bigger payday. Join the MyBookie family for a season filled with odds boosts, free bets, and super contests. To get started, all you got to do is super simple. Go to mybookie.ag right now and register for an account for free. That's right, it's free. And whenever it is you're ready to make your first deposit, just use promo code HIVE. It's right here on the screen, HIVE, to grab a welcome bonus on the house. That's our gift to you for being a part of the 49ers Hive family. That's promo code HIVE, HIVE, to claim your deposit bonus. And for a limited time, you also get a free chip to use in the MyBookie casino. You can bet anything, anytime, anywhere with MyBookie. Now let's get back to the show. All right, guys, go check out mybookie.ag. Promo code HIVE is in the top corner of the screen. All right, pardon my wave. Have a good night. Thanks for tuning in. This one is an interesting chat pack question. So I don't think we're getting to the point where we've asked just about all of them. So I don't think we've asked this one before. Stop me if we have. Let me pull this up. Chat pack time. If you could know one fact about every person you met, what particular fact would you want it to be? Assume that the other person would not have to be aware that you know this fact about them.
Body count. No, I'm just kidding.
This is a good one.
I have a simple answer, but I don't know if it applies. I would just want to know if they lie a lot. Like, are they a dishonest person?
Same.
My mind was the percentage of
lies they tell.
Lies you tell.
Yes. Yeah.
How often are you bullshitting me?
Yeah.
Well, we're all in agreement there. Yeah, fine. Because that just tells a lot about a person. You know, like if you're just lying every other word, it's like, well, fuck. I don't really have to take anything you say seriously.
And even if you have a good bullshit detector, it's, there are people that can do it. And you're just like, damn, that sounds plausible, but also kind of sounds like bullshit. But I don't know, man. Like, and you want to give people the benefit of the doubt.
Right.
I would want to know the percentage. That way, it's like this calculation in your brain, right? It's like Amazon Next Gen stats, right? Percent chance to complete this pass, 32%. Like, what's the percentage they're bullshitting me right now? 31%. Like, all right, I'll get them that.
It's like it's one of my icebreakers that I like to do when I'm in a group of people that, we're supposed to be getting to know each other. We're going to be around, like an in-law will bring their new significant other to the group. You know what I mean? So I like to do like the 2 truths and a lie just to see how they think, which one was the lie. It's like, damn, he told that shit really good. I got to watch this guy. You know what I mean? Like it's little stuff like that. So it's pretty cool.
That's a good one.
I didn't know I was going to take everyone's answer. I'm sorry.
It tells so much about a person.
Listen, hey, you know what, Mike, though? That's a good idea, though. Since, we all have the same answer, maybe we just play one round of 2 truths and a lie.
Let's do it.
Who wants to start?
I will go first. You guys may have heard these stories on here for my truth. So
all right.
I'll go first. I'll get it out the way. 2 truths and a lie. I got to mix up the order here. My wife proposed to me. I threw away $1 million. And I turned down roles to be in a movie with Will Smith and Denzel Washington.
I think the lie is you threw away $1 million. Matt?
I think the lie. Damn, man. I don't know a lot of these stories, but I think the lie is that fuck. I don't know, man. I'm going to say the lie is your wife proposed to you.
Matt was right. The lie was my wife proposed to me. Yeah. We actually didn't really have much of it was like, hey, you want to do this or not? She's like, yeah. I was like, all right, cool. Let's go. Let's do this.
Yeah. The reason I say that is that it's very, like, it's exceedingly rare that a woman is that, like, heart up for a man. You know what I'm saying? It's just like, look, here's my. If a woman walks into a bar and says, "Anybody want this?" She could be the most haggard ass, like fucked up looking, whatever. There's gonna be a dude that's like, "I'll do it." You know what I'm saying? Bro, if you're anything less than a super good looking dude and you were that forward about it, man, all them girls are gonna be like, get the fuck out of here. Like, don't be a creep. And it's just the nature of the business, man. It's what's that movie, 40-Year-Old Virgin? Put the pussy on a pedestal, bro. Like, that's how it is. All right, Zach, you want to go?
Yeah, I'll go. Let's see. 2 truths and a lie. Damn. Okay, someone that was once close to me won the lottery. I sprained both of my ankles in my sleep. And I am a master trumpet player.
Bro, you ain't no damn master trumpet player. You stop it. The way you said master trumpet player, I'm like, damn. If you would have said I'm a trumpet player, I would have been like, all right, cool. I believe that. Master trumpet player is a bridge too far.
It's all up for interpretation.
I'm going to go with the trumpet player thing. I felt like if you were a master trumpet player, you would know like the official word for it or phrase for it. And I don't even know if there is
trumpeteer
word or phrase. So I'm going to go.
Wait, hold on. I fucked up because those are all true. Granted, okay. To be fair, the caveat is I haven't picked up a trumpet in about 12 years, but I was at once a very good trumpet player.
Hey, you said a master trumpet player. That's some bullshit, bro.
Every time we see in a movie, I tell Ashley, I lean over, I tell Ashley, it could have been me. It could have been me. They could have hired this guy, this Mexican right here.
The guy's name with the big cheeks. It's a black dude.
Yeah. It's not Louis Armstrong, is it?
Is it Louis Armstrong? Yeah, I think it is actually.
I think it is, yeah.
How the fuck did you break your... Never mind. I will get to it.
I don't know. I woke up one morning and my ankles were the size of softballs. I went to the doctors. I didn't do anything. I was in 7th grade. Yeah. So, crazy shit. And then my mom's ex-boyfriend, technically, because he's the one who signed the ticket, won the lottery. So, yeah, I kind of fucked up. All 3 of those things were true. So,
that's interesting.
All right.
It's hard to throw a lie in there.
Yeah.
All right, Matt, you're up, man.
All right. Let's see. What could I do? See, this is hard because like you're trying to think of things that kind of like are on the same level, right? It's one thing if you tell like a complete like, all right, this is stupid, right? Dang. Okay. I survived a natural disaster. Dang, what was the other one I was going to say? Dang, see, and now I'm forgetting stuff because I'm tired. So I survived a natural disaster. I have been to 6 countries. I broke both of my arms and 3 ribs in an accident.
That one's very specific.
I'm going to go with the middle one as a lie. The 6 countries.
I'm going to say that the first one's a lie.
The natural disaster?
Yeah.
Mike's right. I've been to 3 countries.
See, I wasn't sure if we were going to be like, I've been to 5, not 6. Like, yeah. I don't know.
No. I actually lived in the Bay Area during the Loma Prieta earthquake. Oh, I remember that. I was 7 years old when that happened. The one during the 89 World Series. I'm aging myself here. But I just remember, I specifically remember this, like clear as day. We had a big, giant redwood tree in our yard, and I was outside playing tetherball. And I just remember the ground starting to like move like waves on the ocean. And it was wild. And I just saw our house. So we lived in a house that had like an old, it was like a pump house. Like, cause we had lived on land with like well water. So there was like a pump house with like the, and it was tall. I just remember it rocking back and forth and swaying. Dude, we didn't have power for like 4 days. It was wild, dude. And I actually did break both of my arms and 3 ribs in a bicycle accident. A car ran me off the road. I found out how much I love my wife because she offered to wipe my ass for me. And my wife found out how much I loved her because I did it myself with my broken arm.
Damn. When I was when I was in elementary school, my best friend at the time, it was one of the last days of school before the summer, and we're on the swings, and he's jumping, and he goes to jump, and somehow he twists as he jumps, and the chains wrap around his arms. He snapped both of his arms. Oh. I didn't see this dude for the entire summer, and he shows up the first day of school with 2 fucking casts on, dude. The teacher still made him write. She's like shoving the pen in his cast, and he's like 2 broken arms is crazy.
God. Dude, yeah, but let me tell you, the ribs was the worst part.
Well, you can't do anything for that, right? You
the arm sucked, right? Like the arm sucked. And here's the worst part. So I broke my radius at the elbow, and then I had an avulsion fracture in my other wrist. They didn't cast them because when you're an adult, they don't want to cast joints because you can lose a lot of mobility. The ribs, I had to sleep on a couch, like holding a pillow like this for like 6 weeks because I could not get comfortable. The worst. Let me tell you, when you got 3 broken ribs and you sneeze, holy shit, dude. Damn. It's the worst. It's the worst.
My dad's watching. He texted me. He said, I was on top of the 7th floor in the new jail in San Jose when the earthquake hit. Because he used to be a corrections officer.
Dude, that earthquake was wild, man. It's wild. But it really educated me on earthquakes. I remember when I was still living in the Bay Area, must have been when I was like 25, 26 years old. There was another quake. It wasn't as big. It was like, one of the little ones that you have in the Bay Area. That's no big deal. Like 4.8. You're just like, whatever. That's no big deal. But I remember just watching the news and standing in the doorway and just doing this.
Yeah.
And I'm like, whatever, dude. I'm cool.
Anytime an earthquake hits, it's just like,
it's not normal.
Do I wait? How serious is this? You give it like 3 seconds, and if the building's still rocking, all right, I should probably get under. Just to be safe.
You have to feel that initial sway. You got to be like, nah, we're good. I don't have to go anywhere.
And now most buildings
are from an earthquake area. That would probably freak you out, right?
Yeah, no, that's great. Listen, my daughter and I were at the airport, her first time at the airport this weekend, and it's not an escalator, but it's the ground one that takes you across.
Yeah, it's the one that like helps you walk faster across the terminal.
Yes. Yeah, she got on that shit and almost fell. Imagine if she was in an earthquake, like where the ground's not supposed to be moving and starts moving. It'd be over for her. Like she jumped on that thing and like almost did a cartwheel. Like I'm like, oh my God, what are you doing? She's like, this is weird. This is weird. And I'm like, all right, we got it. Yeah.
People who aren't from like the Pacific Northwest or from California, they don't understand about the whole earthquake thing. For us, it's like, yeah, dude, I can tell like based off of how this feels, like what I need to be doing. Like if I got to get out into the open away from buildings and shit, or if I could just chill in a doorway just in case part of the house falls down, like it's wild, dude. And it's something, it doesn't even happen that often to be able to like feel that type of confidence, but I don't know, man. It's part of California culture where we're just like, yeah, we know earthquakes and shit. We're good.
I can always tell when I order furniture and it's made in California because it comes with like the straps and the screws, and I'm always like, what the hell is this for? What is this for? And then as you start reading through it, it's like, make sure you screw this to the wall into a beam and then put it there. I'm like, oh my God, it's earthquake shit. Like, get out of here. Like, no. So
crazy, dude.
God bless you guys.
Yeah. All right. I think that's going to do it for tonight's show, guys. Thanks for rocking with us. I know it's late, especially on the East Coast. Mike, I know you're exhausted. Thank you very much for hopping off flight and making time for the show. 49ers whoop some ass, 34-3, back in the win column, baby. And the 49ers will be facing the Tampa Bay Buccaneers on Sunday at 1. We will be live later in the week. Follow all of us on X to get the details for the next show. And for every show, follow RGS Pod so you don't miss an episode. We are getting very close to 1,000 followers. Follow each of us, like I said. Hit like, hit subscribe on both YouTube channels. Mike, let the folks know where they can find you if they don't know already.
Guys, do me a favor, man. Make sure you guys, if you are watching from the Nothing But Niners channel, subscribe to my guys over here at 49ers Hive. And then, guys, check us out on the Patreon page, patreon.com/NB9ERS, right there.
All right. Sweet. Matt, carry us out.
Yeah, man. Way to come off the bye, way to dominate a team that's probably going to make the playoffs, believe it or not. 49ers get back on track. There's still some things to iron out, but this is a great start to the second half of the season. They have a very winnable game against Baker Mayfield and Tampa Bay Buccaneers. I know that Nick Bosa and Chase Young, those Ohio State Buckeye boys, they're going to be ready to go. Exciting to see. Brock Purdy, a great game, no turnovers. George Kittle back in the saddle. Everybody getting theirs except for Christian McCaffrey. RIP to that streak. But let's get a new one going. Let's dominate. Let's finish this season strong and get into the playoffs. And number one is not out of the realm of possibility. Philadelphia hasn't been as dominant as they have been, even though their record would dictate otherwise. But it's going to be an exciting week. We'll see you guys later in the week. For Zach, for Mike, for myself, thank you as always for joining us, guys. And until next time, go Niners.